It is time now for the KBOI Medical Moment. It's brought to you by Regence Blue Shield of Idaho, featuring Dr. Kenny Bramwell, the Executive Medical Director for Regence. Dr. Bramwell, good morning.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Doc. No matter where we go, to the mall, the grocery store, or the ball game, people seem to find it hard, really hard, to put away their smartphones and focus on the moment. And now there's new evidence that says this can be particularly risky for teens. What are the details, and how do we get people off their phones?
Sure. There's a new study published in JAMA recently that suggests that frequent use of digital media on our smartphones by adolescents might increase their odds of developing symptoms of ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's important to note that showing these symptoms is not the same as being diagnosed with ADHD, which is a multi-step process that involves a clinician in addition to a questionnaire. The study did not diagnose any of the kids with ADHD.
So, Doctor, how did the study work?
So the study followed more than 2,500 10th graders in schools in LA County over 2 years. The teens didn't show any symptoms of ADHD at the beginning of the study. However, by the end of the study, the teens with the most frequent digital media use, such as texting, sharing on social media, and streaming videos or music, were more likely to have developed symptoms of ADHD.
Well, what kind of advice would you give based on this study?
Well, first, we need to remember that this is an association, not direct causation, so we don't need to be too alarmed. But it is, however, another reminder of being careful with our smartphones as far as the amount of time that we're all glued to the screen. The study authors point out that we, as adults, too, also need to model good behavior by not obsessing over our own smartphones.
This next item that we have to talk about this morning is going to be probably welcomed by a lot of people, like those of us who find it hard to sit still during long meetings or during lengthy phone calls at our desks. If you would, please go ahead and share this validating news that we have.
Yeah, sure. We have two recent efforts by separate university teams, both of which concluded fidgeting, of all things, in our chairs, also called dynamic sitting, is actually good for us.
Wait a minute. How can that be?
Yeah, you always think of junior high kids with their legs going, right? But
Yep.
when we sit unmoving or flat-footed for an extended period of time, blood flow through the major arteries in our legs slows down. This affects the health and the function of those blood vessels over time and may contribute to arterial stiffening and increased blood pressure. So in one of these studies, a group of healthy young volunteers were asked to sit, keeping one of their feet totally still on the ground for 3 hours. Meanwhile, they got to wiggle and jiggle and tap their other foot and leg every few minutes, and they even had a chime reminding them to move their one foot. At the end of 3 hours, the blood flow, as measured by an ultrasound study, proved to be lower in the still leg than it had been at the start of the study. But the blood flow had risen in the other leg, although the volunteers were doing nothing more than tapping their foot.
So does this mean that we can fidget our way to fitness?
No, it's not quite that easy. It's still best to take breaks from our seats to stand up and move around and take a walk. Standing desks and treadmill desks, or even having a specialized under-desk bicycle-like device are all great for all of us who are in the office. But if those options are limited and you find yourself stuck in a seat for a prolonged period of time, go ahead and fidget. Tap your toes, wiggle or some way. Wiggle in any way.
Dr. Bramwell, thank you for your time this morning on KBOI. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Doc.
The KBOI Medical Moment is brought to you by Regence, featuring Dr. Kenny Bramwell, the Executive Director of Regence Blue Shield of Idaho.